Very good morning to you, our dear viewer, right here on your favorite channel, MBCI TV. When it is on Wednesday, at a time like this, you know, the program is the mid-morning pack, where we try to unpack quite a number of things that are of major significance in our society, in our country, and which you also, as our viewer, you are supposed to know. And this morning, we are privileged to prepare for you a very interesting show on the subject alternative justice systems. Maybe you are hearing this particular word or this particular expression for the first time, but it is something that is very important in our nation, and it's something that pertains to justice, and we want to see what it entails, the roles, the significance, and how you, as a viewer, as a Kenyan, you can benefit from understanding what we talk about, or what we mean when we say alternative justice systems. And as we normally do in our show, you are welcome also to participate and also to give us your contribution. And the question that we'll be asking you during the show is, what challenges do you face? What challenges do you encounter when accessing justice? What challenges do you encounter, or what challenges do you face when accessing justice? You can give us your feedback in the following platforms. Our SMS short code number is 23814, 23814, and you can also join us through our WhatsApp platform, that is 0721 105 105, 0721 105 105, and also we can connect in our social media pages, that is Facebook, catch us live on the page MBCI TV, and also on our YouTube page, that is MBCI, that is MBCI official, and we'll definitely be glad to also sample some of your feedback as far as our discussion is concerned. My name is Mangicho Mola, and to help us go through our show today, I have a panel that will help us to look at this particular subject in more or in details. Being joined by Bwana Kioko Wakivandi, who is a member Nakuru AJS Group. Karibu sana. Pleasure to have you today.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yes. And also in the panel, I'm having Kosiom Kibele Kenya, who is also a member of AJS Nakuru. Karibu sana na shukran.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And maybe right away, we'll start with Bwana Kioko, maybe for the purposes and for the benefit of our viewer, maybe who would want even maybe to know the meaning of alternative justice systems.
All right. Thank you so much. And perhaps as we start, we just clarify that it's not just AJS group, but it's AJS working group.
Okay.
So we are a team of professionals in this county working with the judiciary and several other justice actors to implement the AJS policy, you know, as read together with Article 159(2)(c) of the Constitution and several other constitutional provisions, and especially, you know, Article 48 of the Constitution on access to justice. Majorly to just ensure that we have what the current Chief Justice, Honorable Martha Koome, refers to as the social transformation of you know, the judiciary and judicial processes. And basically, when we talk about alternative justice systems, we are talking about, if we were to start with the word alternative, it's alternative to what? It's alternative to the formal court mechanisms that we have always seen, or that have been used formally for people to access justice. Because in the past, and especially in this country, we have a tendency of, or rather we've had a tendency that you get into a dispute with your friend, with a colleague, and the best thing you can just say is, tukutane kotini, where utaniona, and so on and so forth, right? So then what happens with alternative justice systems, then we are telling people that over and above the formal court processes, we have other ways that our people have used to sort disputes among themselves. And the best thing about these alternative ways of solving these disputes is that they have been tried and tested. In fact, they were there even before the introduction of the formal court process in this country, and so on and so forth.
Wow.
So what we mean by alternative justice system, our system add all those other mechanisms that we can actually use to solve disputes outside the formal court processes. And there are many, as we shall be explaining in this program.
Thank you so much, Wakivandi. Maybe also to bring on board Bwana Kosiom, maybe you would want to expound or maybe an additional.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to simplify what my brother has just talked about, the alternative justice systems. And when we talk about alternative justice system, vis-a-vis there's so many other things, we are trying to understand what does the traditional mechanism means. What does the ADR mean? So when we talk about the alternative dispute resolution mechanism, traditional mechanisms and the AJS, it is now AJS trying to sum the two. And what is happening here? Because when we talk of justice, justice has been existing even before the civilized societies. It has been there. But now, after independence and getting into the new laws, the judiciary, and so many other things, it now comes a time, can we go back to the roots? Okay. Can we now be able to try the elders, the institution of elders? What were these people doing before formal education was in this country? So when we simply talk about alternative justice system, we are trying to go back to the villages, look at how the African societies were doing, and how good and how best were conflicts amongst the peoples, amongst societies, was best provided, and that was justice.
Wow.
Thank you.
Very well. And just to come back to you, Bwana Kioko, in explanation, you had also you had told us that there is a formal way in which maybe as a nation, as a society, we've known maybe justice to be administered. In your own views, what have been the heights and maybe the lows of this particular formal way of administering justice in our country?
I think that's a very clear one. Most of the time when you try to get information about the challenges of accessing justice through the formal court system, the main one is usually the backlog. The main one is that, cases in court drag for many, many years. Why? It's because of quite a number of things. One of them perhaps being few judicial officers and so on and so forth, budget cuts and so on. So that's the first one. And the other one, of course, is that this formal court process is a bit complicated, even for the lay person to understand, because you appear before a judicial officer, and even the court language itself. So even the language of accessing justice becomes too complicated, too difficult for the lay person to understand. You and I are journalists, but I'm very sure if we were presented today before a judicial officer, in a very big way, we will still need the services of an advocate for us to sail through. And you and I are journalists. You can imagine what happens to these other people and so on and so forth, right? So it's a bit complicated. It is expensive. It takes time. All these challenges put together then make really, the formal court process and its way of accessing justice become, a very high task.
A very high task.
Yes.
And that basically also means, when Kosiom, that when you have these kind of challenges, would translate maybe to so many people not actually having justice. and thereby maybe even looking at it in terms of maybe being denied their
Well,
rights.
my brother, access to justice in this country, especially to the local communities, and especially communities who are not properly educated, is a very Herculean task. Because when we talk of access to justice, we are made to believe that you will only get justice when you go to court. And the process of going to court, my brother, starts long. This is not an event, this is a process. Because it starts from the scene. And when we go to the scene, there are people who are called experts. And these experts are called forensic experts. So many big English names that are being used. Now from the forensic experts going to the police, now from the police, you need to get a good criminal lawyer. From that criminal lawyer, going to the court. And my brother has just said what is happening in our court system, the backlog. Something that would have been completed by 2 elders in a village become complex, and it may take up to 10 years. Not because justice is deliberately delayed, but because of the nature of our court justice in this country. Why can't we think outside the box? Why can't we think of those elders who can be able to be called upon to execute and see how best they can be able to execute that.
And I know the two of you have, in one way or another, because of being involved in these alternative justice systems, you've interacted with the corridors of justice, the courts there, and you can attest that there are people who have even gone for more than 10 years without accessing justice. Maybe others
well, I can be able to tell you, I'm working with the National Land Commission. And in this county, I'm currently working on a case which was registered in 1975. Now, tell me, since 1975, and that was the year I was born, what has been happening? These people have not accessed justice up to now. Now, the ruling that may come, and the parcel of land that is being contested, the generation that is living in that land now, that is their historical home. They don't know any other home because they inherited from their parents. 75 to date is quite a number of years. And I tell you, that is the rigorous court process. If this thing had been taken to an institution of elders, I want to tell you this thing would have been sorted long, and justice would have been delivered at the right time, and people would have appreciated.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow.
Allow me to just speak from where he lives. And I like his use of that term of thinking outside the box. And actually, that is exactly what we are trying to do with the alternative justice systems. And we are actually here to also tell the story, the success story of Nakuru, the story of Nakuru County actually with respect to AJS, because there's something that we are doing with the law courts here, with the judiciary on matters AJS. So AJS basically is actually, with respect to access to justice, operating as if not just thinking outside the box, but thinking as if there wasn't a box in the first place, you know. Going back to our roots and like he has said, asking ourselves, what were our people doing before the courts came? I remember one of the cases that we handled here, or if you want files. There was a file that we once handled here through our mechanism, and that file had even gone to the Chief Justice. Okay, and it came back. No, it had even gone to the current Chief Justice when she was working, I think, at one of the high courts in this country. So then the parties were still saying the next option now is we shall be taking it to the Supreme Court now. And then now the Chief Justice will have a look at it afresh now as Chief Justice. And we handled that case, and to the best of my memory is that it's one of our success stories.
Wow.
Because it's a succession, it's a succession case. I'll give you a scenario, for instance. You realize that these cases that usually end up in court, they come in court perhaps as a succession case.
Okay.
But behind them is not just a succession case. Behind them are siblings that have deep rivalry among themselves. They have hatred among themselves. So while a case will present itself as a succession story,
Okay.
or just a division of perhaps property among siblings, deep down there are issues that if you present them through the formal court system, those issues will not be presented well.
Wow.
So then what happens in the AJS mechanism and the platform that we have established here in Nakuru, and the story that we've come to share today, is that we usually give those parties an opportunity to share and to bring out those issues. I remember there's a case, and we actually sat in the panel with my brother. There's a case we once sorted that had, it was a burial dispute, and the family siblings could not agree on where to bury their kin. Okay. All right? So it presented itself in court as a burial dispute. But when we sat with the parties, we were talking about family members, brothers and sisters, it finally ended up to be some hatred. Okay. That had grown in the family for quite a while. And that family had not talked to each other for more than a decade. They had not shared a meal for more than a decade. Wow. And that day, we shared with them tea as the panel and all the parties. They told us that is the first time they have shared a meal as a family in the last 10 years. And we sorted that dispute there. Wow. Where was it heading? It was heading to court. In fact, it had been registered in court. Yes. And it came to the panel. Okay? We sat, we agreed with them, and it was sorted. Wow. And the next day, they buried.
Absolutely amazing. Remember, you are watching the Mid-Morning Park right here on MBCI TV. In the show, we are having Kioko Kivandi, that is a member AJS Working Group Nakuru, and also Bwana Kosiom Kibele Kenya, who is also a member Alternative Justice Systems Working Group Nakuru, member Working Group Nakuru. And the question that we are asking you, what are some of the challenges that you face, or what are some of the challenges that you encounter when trying to access justice? What are some of those challenges that you encounter or you face when trying to access justice? And you can continue to give us your feedback on our SMS platform, that is 23814, 23814. And also you can give us your feedback also on our WhatsApp number or platform, that is 0721 105 105, 0721 105 105. And also on our social media platforms, that is Facebook page, you can catch us live on MBCI TV, and also on our YouTube platform, that is MBCI TV Official. And definitely, as we continue with the show, we'll look at some of those questions or some of those opinions, and we'll be glad to actually sample them during this particular conversation. And I know even as we continue, we want to find out how does it work, because I know maybe one of the major questions that maybe our viewer would be asking is, how does this particular alternative justice systems work? Is it, for example, now maybe like you approaching the people, are they the ones maybe who this particular dispute, we are supposed to approach you, and when they are approaching you, what is it that they are supposed to do? You'll be able to guide us and to help us to be able to know. But even this other question that maybe somebody would want to find out, so what are some of the cases, maybe I know land could be one of them, but what are some of these cases that are embraced by the alternative justice systems? If Bwana Kibele, you can help us here.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, the framers of the 2010 Constitution were very, very patriotic to this country. And they were patriotic in the sense that because they wanted, because they realized that Kenya as a country is made up of indigenous African communities. And before the current laws, justice was still there, and the institution of elders was very effective, and it was doing very, 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 very well. And one thing that, which is very, very nice, the coming up of alternative justice system is one thing that that has brought everybody on board. The judiciary is there. All the players in the justice are there, including the Law Society of Kenya. So you could be able, you will realize that there is no gap. There is no group of people that will be able to say that they were left out when this particular thing is there. Now, coming to your answer. Well, the National Land Commission is a constitutional commission. And one of the functions of the National Land Commission is to try alternative ways of sorting out situation. So when the issue of alternative justice system came in, the very lucky people who were the first to raise up their hands and saying that we are here, we are ready, is the National Land Commission. And that is why I can be able to tell you, seated here, in this county, we have sorted out quite a number of cases which are in court. We have deliberately encouraged the parties to think on how they can be able to bring the issues out of court so that we can be able to try an alternative way to sort out all these issues. And I can say that in my office, it has been a success story. And to answer your question, when you look at what the National Land Commission talks about as a function, to encourage, that means both parties has to be encouraged to look at the alternative way on how we can be able to sort out a 10-year-old case, probably in 1 month, and every other group or persons get justice and go home. What is happening here, my friend, is trying to appreciate our traditional societies. And this is the time now we need to tap the knowledge of the elders from our communities and all these other players, the clergy not left behind, the judiciary not left behind, the media not left behind, so that we can be able to have an alternative within a very short time that we can be able to deliver justice. And when delivering justice in African traditional society, both parties will always get the equal share. When I talk of the equal share, both parties will walk out when they're happy. Because these people are not paid by anybody. These are the people who believes a strong society is a society that's where individuals come together without issues on conflict.
And they normally say in this country, Bwana Kioko, that land is an emotive issue. Could it be maybe one of them, the one that maybe would really be of major significance as far as alternative justice systems is concerned?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, that's actually one of them. Because, you know, land disputes will always be manifested, especially when we come to matrimonial, sharing of matrimonial property, succession cases, and so on and so forth. So I've actually added over and above land cases. We have criminal cases. Criminal cases such as what? Breakage, is normal, you know, stealing. We also have sharing of matrimonial property. We have succession cases. These are some of the cases that we are handling at the AJS in Nakuru.
Okay, that's very well. And therefore, maybe we
even murder, by the way, even murder. We also have murder cases that we are handling.
Murder cases. They can also be handled through the alternative justice systems.
Yes, we shall tell you how and why. and why it's possible.
And I think that is where now we can get into, because it's very, very important for somebody to be able to know how the alternative justice systems work. If maybe one wants to embrace this particular model of resolving the issues that they are having, how do they begin? Where do they start from?
Maybe we need to start with telling you how the AJS process or mechanism here in Nakuru came to be established. And for us to do that, then we actually need to go back to the year 2016, when the then Chief Justice, the first Chief Justice we had under the Constitution, under the new Constitution, Dr. Willie Mutunga, formed a task force that went throughout the country looking at these alternative ways of solving disputes that our people have always had pre-independence and so on and so forth. And if we go back to that history, one of the statements that he gave that was quote unquote a bit controversial was that, and I'm sure you'll remember it, and quite a number of Kenyans will remember it, that of saying, let's use any means of solving our disputes, even if it involves witchcraft. What people, most people picked the term witchcraft, yes, and forgot whatever it is he meant. But he was actually referring to these, alternative ways. So after that, that task force came up with what now we refer to as the AJS policy, which is what we are implementing now. That task force it has a national chair, it has a national secretariat led by a chair, and the best thing is that, and with respect to Nakuru, that national chair has been and is still Justice Professor Joel Ngugi, who was the presiding judge Nakuru, yes, until the other day when he was promoted to be a court of to be a judge of the Court of Appeal. Yes. But he's still the national chair. Then, now, what happens is that different counties are being approached now, and they're working together with the judiciary and other actors within the justice sector to implement this AJS policy. So what have we done in Nakuru and what is expected to be done in several other places? And in Nakuru, we are the first county to do this. Is that several actors involving the media, we have a representative of the National Land Commission, we have a probation officer, have formed what is referred to as a working group. Okay. So the working group in Nakuru had several, it was a process. We met and did several deliberations on what we need to do in order to implement this policy framework. And finally, we established what in Nakuru now we have an AJS suite, okay, which is like a chamber on its own, okay. And we have an AJS secretariat here in Nakuru, right? So the working group forms the original members of like the panel, okay? If you want to look at them as quote unquote the elders, right? And after that, we have another pool of professionals that we have. So if you have a case that has been registered at the secretariat, then we usually constitute a panel to come and listen to this case. Majorly, a panel consists of at least 3 persons, and depending with the nature of the case, then it could also go up to 7, right? Just the way we have, like at the Supreme Court, the bench there consists of 7 members, right? Yeah, but it depends. So what will happen, and sometimes a case can actually be referred to the AJS Secretariat by a court, because what we are implementing here is what we refer to as a court-annexed AJS. Some people who have done mediation know what we refer to as court-annexed mediation. So a magistrate or a judge will listen to, a case will be presented before them. Then they will evaluate and feel that this case can better be handled at the AJS suite. So then it is referred to the AJS suite. When it is referred there, the secretariat sits and we compose a panel. Then the panel now comes to listen to that case and gives resolutions or writes a report, that report goes back to the court for implementation of whatever the panel has agreed. But the best thing is that it is not the panel that usually agrees on what to do. This discussion is usually done with the parties. What the panelists do is just to kind of guide the discussion, so that then the solutions to the dispute are actually quote-unquote homegrown. They come from the parties.
Wow, thank you so much, Bwana Kioko there. We want to take a short break at this particular point, but we are coming back with plenty more. Remember, you're still watching the Mid-Morning Pack right here on MBCI TV. Our conversation this morning is on the subject alternative justice systems, and we are asking you a question so that you can give us your feedback. That is, what are some of the challenges that you face or you encounter when trying to access justice? And you can continue to drop a comment or two in our feedback platforms. That is 23814, that is for the SMS, 0721105105 on WhatsApp, and also on our Facebook page, that is MBCI TV, and YouTube, that is MBCI TV Official. We take that short breather and we'll come back with plenty more.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
We bring down every strong order. We break down evil patterns in our families, in our villages, in our cities, in our counties.
By the grace of God, we took up the burden of praying for the nation of Kenya and visited all the 47 counties to rededicate them to God. We petitioned God to give us peace before, during, and after the election, a peaceful transition and handover process. We committed ourselves to give God thanks whatever the outcome of the elections would be. Now look what the Lord has done in our nation, Kenya. Our God deserves all the glory, honor, and praise for the great and marvelous things He has done and continues to do for our nation. Come, let us give thanks to the Lord, for He is good and His mercies endure forever. Psalms 136 verse 1. Come and let us give thanks to God for the peaceful general elections in our beloved country, Kenya. Karibu to the National Thanksgiving Conference, happening at the Kasarani Gymnasium from 6th to 8th October 2022, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily. Return with gratitude and praise to the Lord, for His mercy endures forever. Psalms 136 verse 1. Brought to you by the National Prayer Committee.
Ukipika yai kuna sehemu fulani inakuwa nyeupe. Ile sehemu nyeupe inaitwaje ile?
Eggshell. Eggshell.
How many books makes up the gospel?
66.
How many books makes up the gospel?
Gospel haina kitabu.
Pardon?
Gospel haina kitabu.
Are you sure?
Hakuna kitabu inakuanga kwa gospel.
Wamejipanga kila kona, wanataka kunidhuru. Amani yangu ningelipia ushuru. Asante Mungu, umenipenda ukanipa uhuru.
The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to preach good tidings to the meek, sent me to bind the brokenhearted and proclaim liberty to the captives. Bishop Miriam Mudhondio welcomes you for an apostolic ordination ceremony at Jehovah Jireh Reconciliation Church on Saturday, 8th of October 2022 from 10 a.m. Venue is Nyahururu PCEA Church Hall. Presiding minister will be Bishop Dr. Stanley Michael Meshoke, President of Kenya National Congress of Pentecostal Churches. Assisted by Apostle Dr. Jane Grace G. Draff of Naomi's and Ruth International Women Ministers Africa. Kindly purpose to attend as we join hands to celebrate the doings of the Lord. Remember, the time is 10 a.m. this Saturday, 8th of October 2022 at Nyahururu PCEA Church Hall. Welcome. God bless you.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Welcome back to the program, The Mid-Morning Pack, right here on MBCI TV. Thank you so much for finding time to be with us on this particular show. And we are looking at the subject of alternative justice systems. And the question that we're asking you during our conversation is, what are some of the challenges that you encounter, some of the challenges that you face when trying to access justice? Justice is very paramount, and actually it is a right of everyone to have justice. I'm having a panel that is helping us to look at this particular issue, and that is Bwana Kioko Wakivandi, who is a member AJS, which stands for Alternative Justice Systems Working Group Nakuru, and also Bwana Kosiom Kibele Kenya, who is also a member of AJS Working Group Nakuru, and also the National Land Commission Coordinator Nakuru. Thank you so much. You can give us your feedback on 23814. That is our SMS platform, and then 0721105105 on WhatsApp. Catch us live also on our Facebook page, that is MBCI TV, and also on our YouTube page, that is MBCI TV Official. And definitely we'll be glad to see what are some of your feedback, even as our conversation is concerned. And just before the break, Bwana Kioko had taken us through the summary of the background of the alternative justice systems, and maybe Bwana Kibele Kenya, you can also add on that and help us now to be able to see what is it like. Try to give us a picture of how the AJS is supposed, or how the JS system works.
Well, thank you very much. I want to say this. 60 years of independence. And now you are trying to tell the people of Kenya, and especially a generation where you belong, that we are going back to where our elders were. That is why there was a serious need for a task force that went across the country to educate the population of this country that we are not reinventing the wheel, but what we are trying to do, we are trying to bring justice home. Yeah. We are trying to bring justice to your village to be managed the way you can be able to do that. My brother has given a chronology of what has been done here. But I want to ask here, each and every African community had the way of tackling issues on divorce. Who is more knowledgeable? Is it the Western judge with the Western knowledge, or the society where Mr. and Mrs. join this? We are just simply telling, and we are trying to encourage our societies. Nothing is going to change, but we want to make justice to happen very fast. We want justice to happen in the language you understand very much. All the African communities, through the elders, through the religious societies, had their own ways of tackling these issues. Mola, why did the government realize that there was need to come up with the Qadhi's Court to deal with issues on marriage, inheritance, and some other few things amongst the Muslims? We are foreseeing in the near future a demand from a Kenyan community that we would want justice to go to the elders in their villages, so that instead of having kangaroo courts in our police stations, we have an institution of elders supported by government, supported by the powers that be, so that they can be able to decide cases there. An opportunity has been brought to the people of Nakuru County, because this is the second county in the Republic of Kenya to come up with this.
Wow.
Why should these people go to court anymore? When their elders, their clergy, can be able to sort out these issues. Nobody is a loser here. The Law Society is a very strong component in this particular thing. So the challenges that has been there to access justice and the alternative justice system will be zero. What we are just going through now are the very teething, normal challenges, just like we have got the CBC in the Ministry of Education and anything else. But I want to assure you and to assure the public, the Kenyan public, let us go back to our roots, where an issue of a land dispute could only be able to be worked by the elders who actually worked on that particular land, who can be able to give the history of the first beacon to the last beacon. Those are the best people to give that one. The moment you go and get a surveyor to come up with a gadget called GPRS to move around there, and the elders could be able to tell you the boundary between Mr. Kibelekenya and Mr. Kioko is there, and the beacon was in that particular valley.
Wow, wow. And Bwana Kioko, one of the things that again has been a major impediment when trying to access justice has been the issue of cost. When you look at alternative justice systems vis-a-vis cost, what would you say?
I don't want to say that accessing justice through AJS is you will not incur any cost, because even traveling to the AJS suit, because what we are doing at the moment is what we at the courts here, what we have is the court annexed AJS, where the AJS mechanism is presented parallel to or housed just next to the courts. But we have several other AJS mechanisms that are taking place even in the villages, which we refer to as autonomous AJS. I don't want to say that
so that takes place right inside the village.
Yes, right inside. What we are saying is this: the best way to really understand AJS, perhaps, is even asking us when we were young. There are times when you would get into a dispute with a fellow child,
yes,
and you keep on going to your mother or or father to report, right, or your guardian to report. And one day they tell you, go sort out your issues there. Okay? I'm tired of you. I'm tired of you, coming to.
And once you've sorted, come and report.
Yes, once you have sorted, come in and report. And at some point, we would now start saying, so and so pinched me here, and this is how we handled it. Okay? And some parents would even say, yeah, you see, now you are growing up. If you remember, right? So anyway, but what we are saying is, even right at the village, okay, we have disputes of, I have a herd of cattle, and they have crossed into someone else's farm. I will not just rush to the court, but we'll sit down and agree that this is the much harm or loss that I have incurred because of your herd crossing into my farm and so on and so forth. How much will you pay me? And sometimes you even sit with elders, okay, or just the two of you. There are times when that will be, free of charge, but there are times you will incur some costs. But you cannot compare those costs to the cost that you really will incur if you start the formal court process. And the other thing why AJS is a little bit cheap compared or cost effective compared to this other formal court process is that you really don't actually need an advocate. You don't need an advocate for your case to be heard on AJS. In fact, even if you have an ongoing case and a court has referred it to the AJS mechanism, the court annexed AJS mechanism, and you come even to the panel with your advocate, we will request them that the best explanation I would say is to leave their legalese at the door. So then when we sit there, there's one of our members of the working group who usually puts it very well. He usually says, "Hapa tuko chini ya miti." So we tell advocates, we appreciate that you are an advocate. But here, we want to assume that we are sitting under a tree somewhere with elders. Even if we have an advocate in there, unless it is those complicated matters where we will need some interpretation of the law, just a little bit, okay? We tell them, let's have a discussion as elders seated under a tree. Yes. That way, then the cost is actually minimized. Sure. And even if you had an advocate, then we are trying to shorten the process with which you would remain with them in court for a very long time, trying to litigate and so on and so forth. So in terms of costs, AGS really will cut your costs to some minimum that you can afford.
Because actually,
you don't pay the panel.
You don't pay the
you don't pay the panel.
You don't pay the panel.
The people that come and sit the panel, I've told you, we have a team of professionals who come and sit on voluntary basis.
Wow.
Okay, I am a journalist. I'm part of that team. I sit in that panel. He's a member of. He's the coordinator of the National Land Commission.
We have members from the religion.
We have members of
organizations.
Yes. Wow. Okay. I said we have advocates. We have lecturers. Okay. We have even probation officers. We even have SECs. We have a DCC. We have an OCS. We have an OCPD. Even the former county commander in Nakuru.
So you can have a team of like maybe 15, 20.
A panel.
A panel.
No, we will never get there because again, you know, you don't want to have a very large group. But depending with the case, the largest panel I think we've ever had is up to 7. So between 3 and 7.
Yeah, because also what maybe we understand from this former court litigation, Bwana Kibele Kenya, is that when it comes maybe to the person that has been offended, or maybe somebody maybe whose rights in one way or another maybe were violated, what we normally see is very huge compensations. Now, as opposed to maybe to what maybe.
Well, thank you very much, Mola. First of all, you need to understand, we have said that there is an inclusion of the Law Society of Kenya. And the lawyers do not sit there to interpret the law. They sit there as panelists, just like any other elder from the National Land Commission, any other elder from the village. They sit there because they are part and process supporting the alternative justice system. Now, my friend said here, there's a very common phrase, tukutane kotini. And who are these people who are going to court? And who is being taken to court? And ask the experts, those who are in that business, how many cases are there in court? What percentage? They tell us a paltry 14% of the cases goes to the court. Now, in 100%, what is the remaining percentage? We are simply saying AJS is taking place every other moment in this country and in our villages as we sit here. We only want to encourage and we want to modernize. We want it to be seen that all these elders have been doing is very critical and very supportive to support the judiciary and make the country move on very well and understand them. Why are we saying 14%? What happens in the village, like he has just said, my condos has crossed over somebody's cabbage farm. Are you going to take that one to court? A majority of this issue are taken care by those people who are called wazee wa chief. And these are the people we are giving them energy, We are giving them names to make sure that all these issues, they don't go to court.
Wow.
You are talking about the issue of compensation. Africans are very complex, Mola, including the issue of murder my brother has spoken about. In the community I come from, my brother, the issue of murder, I am very sure the execution of that one, that the peace that will prevail between the two families will be everlasting. Will be everlasting.
Wow.
And that is done by the institution of elders. The moment it's taken to court, what will happen? Maybe the murderer is jailed for life.
For life, sure.
And what's going to happen between the two families who are living, sharing a common border? What is going to happen on them? There is going to be total enmity throughout their livelihood. But the moment the AJS way is the indigenous method is applied, the first thing that will happen in our community after the cleansing of that one, which is elaborate, is the exchange of marriage. A girl from that family will be married from this family, and a girl from this family will be married. Now tell me, if that one would have been decided by Professor Joel Ngogi and decides that Kivandi will be jailed for Maisha, what will happen and we share a common border? That is why we encourage citizens. What has been happening in villages, we need to raise it a little bit up so that it's going to be supported. If you have a land dispute, a boundary dispute, don't go to the local Sumolu. Okay. Just get two elders around there and the local chief there, sit under a mugumu tree there, iron out the issue. Only get the knowledgeable elders, get the clergy. Why are we bringing the church so, very, very strongly? Kenyans are becoming very religious. And sometimes Kenyans respect their pastors and their bishops more than the judges.
Yes.
The moment you are told your pastor has been invited for that, you surrender before you face your pastor.
Okay.
And justice is arrived to. Where is the expense there? That is simply what you are telling the people of Nakuru. This is an opportunity in your doors. Hapana tumia pesa kwenda kotini. Tumia uwezo ya wasee na wale watu wengine wote mlio nao.
Very well.
Yeah, so maybe there's a question maybe you are interested to know that how does a case finally end up in at the panel?
Yeah,
I said first it can be through a referral.
Sure.
It is in court, and a judge or magistrate decides that this can actually be heard at the AJS suite. So they will just refer the file. And we have a
actually, because there is a question here, someone called David who was asking if already a case had been launched in a formal court, can it be dropped and taken to AJS?
Perhaps the word is not dropped. What will happen is that it will be referred.
Referral?
Yes. By the magistrate or a judge to the AJS secretariat. So the AJS secretariat now, that file, you know, courts do discussion through files, they communicate through files. So that file will be brought to the AJS suite, and a panel will be formed. They will listen to that case, and afterwards they will write a report back to the court that referred to say, this is what we say. There are other cases that have, prosecutors involved. A prosecutor will also be informed about what has happened before that file is finally closed. Okay? Let me give an example, for instance. Someone is taken to court on robbery, for instance. Let's say they are accused of robbing someone, let's say a bicycle. We handled this case a while back. A bicycle worth, let's say, 10,000. Okay? We have someone who has been arrested. They're even at the remand. So almost like in prison, almost. So a case then is referred to AJS. So what will the AJS do? They will form a panel and they will bring these parties together. Okay. And perhaps this accused will finally say, yeah, it is true, I robbed this person the bicycle and I am ready to do ABCD. Perhaps I still have the bicycle, I can return it.
Or buy him a new one?
Or buy him a new one. The other one can even be, and we also handled this one, someone was working, was employed, okay, at some homestead. And as they were working there, money got lost. And this person was arrested, okay? So he's in remand. If this case finally succeeds, what will happen is that they will just be fined. Will the person who lost the money finally get their money? In most cases, they may not, because this is a fine you will pay to, you pay to the courts. Yes. So what happened then in this case? The person admitted, yes, this is how that money got lost, and for sure I was involved. There are two ways: either refund the money, okay, or say that I will go back and work for this person on these conditions. And that is how that case was actually sorted. Okay? Yes. So that is how we are solving these cases there. Instead of finally going to say, according to the criminal procedure, what, this is what will happen. No, we ask the parties, what is the best way you can actually solve this? The other one is even, and this is very common, this conning game, okay? You got money from someone and you don't want to pay, okay? It now becomes a criminal case and you are in court, right? Yeah. So what happens? Let's say it's 60,000. You come and agree on a payment schedule, right? You say, let's say it's 60,000. If you are the one who is accused, you just pay, I can afford 5,000 per month. Yes. So then I'm going to pay this person 5,000 for the next 12 months. And this is how I will settle this. So what the panel then does is come up with that schedule, and this now will form the report that will be shared with the magistrate or the judge. And then that's how the file then will not be closed just like that, but there will be some kind of follow-up, even with the AJS secretariat, to see whether this person is actually paying. Exactly. So this is how these cases are being sorted.
Maybe, knowingly or unknowingly, under this program of AJS, we have dealt with even confirmed cases around here very successfully. For example, now, a particular lady reported in court that having been pickpocketed or waylaid and taken money or goodies by force. And the police does their part, carry the investigation, and the perpetrator is brought to court. In the wisdom of judges sometimes, they look at cases and they refer the cases like that one to the AJS. I have got a typical case in this county, which is a success story at the offices of the National Land Commission. And I don't want to mention the name of that particular settlement scheme. But this particular settlement scheme, people were settled over 30 years ago. But a controversy rose. The moment somebody is buried there, the following morning, when you don't come from that particular community, that body will be found on top there. This continued and continued. The issue was taken to court, and it has been in court for the last 25 years. And the wisdom of court, they realized that there's a need for them to transfer this, or revert this matter, as Kioko puts it, to the Commission for ADR, Alternative Dispute Solving Mechanism. This is the AJS you're talking about here. Do you know what? It only took us 3 sitting months, bringing all these people together, the people who went to court, We went through the list together. They agreed the list was blotted. Remove these 100 people. Remove this other extra 20 people who are not deserving. Remember, these are the same people who went to court, who are now agreeing that the 100 people ilikuwa ni wa uongo. Hata hao wengine, 50 of them were underage. These are the right people now. And immediately, all the parties agreed. We deposited to the court. Very soon, we are going to do a wonderful settlement program which has been agreed by all under a tree model.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe we
That's
also
a win-win
add
situation.
Yeah, maybe we also add that. So a judicial officer, a magistrate, or a judge can actually refer, but parties who are in court can also decide. They can actually make an application. When your case is ongoing, you can actually say that I would like that my case to be heard at the AJS suit.
That is one party, or now they have to be both parties, maybe the complainant and the defendant?
Majorly, the main test will be if the complainant is willing. So it has there's a strong case if it's the complainant, who is making the application.
Okay.
Because that's the complainant. That's like, quote unquote, the owner of the case. But even the defendant can also make an application, and that has happened before. Okay? But it's better if...
But they come there without any terms.
In terms of... they will just come and present their case at the AJS panel. Because when they get at the AJS table, what we tell them now, assume that didn't exist. The court process doesn't exist. Tell us, what are the issues? Present them on this table now. And if you come to the AJS suit, actually our table is decorated with a Maasai shuka as a symbol of going back to the roots, because the Maasai, in a very big way, are still, like the people who have the symbol of the real Kenya. Like, what's the face of Kenya, right? Is the face of... So we are using the Maasai shuka at the moment, like to present the face of Kenya, the tradition, and so on and so forth. How many cases have we presented so far? Or even your advocate can also make that application. But we want to insist that if the complainant making the application, the case is a bit strong. But that's not the only determination or the only requirement. So far we have succession cases, 13 of them. We have 6 active succession cases.
For those 13 succession stories.
Succession cases, yes.
Succession cases, okay. What was the timeline?
In most cases, we usually say we don't want... You see, the aim of AJS is to bring justice closer to the people. And bringing justice closer to the people is also shortening the period within which a case will be heard. So one of the principles is that let it not take too long. So for us, timelines are about sittings. So in most cases, we don't want to go even past 3 sittings. If by the time we are doing the 3rd sitting, we are not seeing any success, we usually feel like then we let it just go back to where it came from. It's a return to sender.
So by the 3rd sitting, at least
by the 3rd sitting,
and
the 3rd sitting is about, we don't say, we just ask the parties, when are you available? It's majorly about the availability of the parties. Okay? Wow. Something that is actually happening is that our diary now is becoming full. Okay? But that is not really the issue. It's majorly about the availability of the parties. So we ask the parties, when next can you be available so we can have a sitting? So I've talked about 13 succession cases.
Right.
Okay? We have successfully closed 6 files among those 13. There is one that was unsuccessfully closed. When you say unsuccessfully closed, it means we could not get an agreement, so that file has gone back to the court. Criminal cases, we've so far had 60 registered. We have successfully closed 32 files. We have active cases with 16 and unsuccessful are 11 criminal cases. Wow. In terms of matrimonial cases, and it's majorly matrimonial property rights, we have had so far 4 active, so far 4 cases. We have 1 that is still active. We have successfully closed 1 file and 2 have been unsuccessfully closed. Murder, we have 3. There are still those 3 that are active. So we have neither closed nor unsuccessfully closed or successfully closed.
Maybe somebody would want to know, or maybe somebody is interested to know, how would this work maybe in a murder case?
Murder case. Well, Kibele Kenya had actually explained no community in this country has no ways of solving a murder case. Maybe he could give he could give the Maasai
what we are doing here, and we are dealing with traditional African communities. And when you look at the representation of these AJS, these are African people. And this African society, each and every African society, including the society you come from, they have ways on how they can be able, they resolve any dispute that arises, including when you are found crossing over to somebody's boma without permission. What we are using here, we are using the wisdom of elders from each and every other community. We are using the wisdom of the clergy, and the clergy, they come from African community. Take, for example, a murder has occurred between Agriama and Adigo. In the same panel, we are not short of having Adigo elder. We are not short of having Agriama clergy. So that what we are going to apply there, it is now them to lead us on what happens in their traditional societies, what they have been doing since the inception of mankind. Because Kenya is only 60 years, and disputes were there long before independence. How are we sorting out these issues? It is as interesting when you are just solving any other normal case around this time. Because the people who are dealing with this are the people who are having the deepest knowledge in community matters, on issues on marriage, issues on succession, issues on murder, and cross-boundary issues between community A and community B. Wow. When community B decides to move across to the other community with their animals because of drought, what will happen? Wow. So that one is very, very elaborate. And I think that is the simplest, because we don't want to go to the jargon of the law. We just need to get these elders, tell them, and the parties has to agree. Because you already know that AJS is a court on its own. So the issue of people coming up with conditionalities, in the community I come from, it is very clear what is supposed to be paid when you murder a man. The number of cattle, and there must be a 9 at the end of it there. But unfortunately, when a woman is murdered, the number of animals to be paid is less. And that one, there is no review on it. That one, there is no review on it. And you cannot be able to come with a condition that instead of giving me 249 herds of cattle, give me the equivalent in terms of money. I don't remember if there is any African community that has amended their traditional ways of sorting out such issues. Unless Kioko now can tell us maybe the Eastern community has done that.
As you touch on that, Kioko, also, you can also maybe also contribute on how does therefore alternative justice systems also maybe even help in terms of maybe making the society to have peace enhanced in the society, and even to see the reduction of maybe the rate of crimes.
Okay, that's a good one. But just going back to the question on how a murder case would be handled, you know, just at the start, when a party brings a case to AJS, what we usually ask them is we usually try to get into their mind to understand their conception, their feeling about justice towards the injustice that has been meted against them. Okay?
Maybe
we usually just ask them a very simple question. So, this is what happened to you. What do you think should happen for you to feel at peace? For you to feel like, yes, I have finally gotten justice.
The offender being jailed?
We ask them, is that what you want? Is that, if that happened, would you feel justice has been delivered? Then they would give options. Sometimes, by the way, all the parties that we've ever handled or interacted with, no party has ever said, I want this person to be jailed. Funny enough, they always say, I want peace of mind. Peace of mind. Now tell me, if maybe it's a murder case where, let's say, a brother killed a brother, okay? Let's say the Cain, is it the Cain and Abel case? Okay?
Sure, a practical example.
Right?
Yes.
And now it's Abraham. We could add a third brother, okay? And this third brother perhaps is the one who was a friend to the one who was murdered. We ask them, now you are the one who has brought this case, what do you think should happen for you to feel at peace?
Yes.
Okay? Do you want Cain to be banished? And so on and so forth. They say, I only want peace of mind. So in most cases then what will happen is...
And what about the same question as to the accused?
The accused.
Yes.
But you see, before we come to the accused, we want first of all to understand, it's the accused, well, the accused is also seeking justice, but sometimes, especially on matrimonial and succession cases, we also ask, okay, because we also ask the parties, even the defendant. There we don't have an accused in the real sense of an accused person. Most cases they also say, I want peace of mind. So in a murder case then, what is important then, what will happen is a discussion will be done for reparations. Okay? And reparation is like what now he's talking about. Someone died, and human life by all means is the most valuable thing that we can ever have. All right? In journalism, for instance, when we are writing stories on, let's say, floods, if one man has died, has been swept away by floods with a herd of 100 heads of cattle, right? We don't start with 100, cattle were swept away. We still start with one man and to show the value of human life and so on. So human life can never be compensated in the real sense of compensation. What we can talk about is reparation. So these parties will sit down to discuss about reparation in a murder case. The best example of reparation that has ever happened in this country, I will cite the 207, 208 murders that happened.
Post-election violence.
The post-election violence. What was one of the reparation processes or recommendations by the Waki Commission? That the president gives an apology. Only that. An apology. Not even payment. Okay? Did that happen? It finally happened under President Uhuru Kenyatta. That's a form of reparation. Okay? And one of the cases that we usually cite, even in AJS and in this discussion, is a case that happened in Northeastern, where it's a murder case, yes, and this accused person has given camels to the family that was impacted by the murder. All right? And the family that was complaining finally feels to some extent they have some peace. If those parties have finally agreed, who are you to come and say, okay?
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. So that is what is happening, and those are the discussions that we are having. So how then, through that, then you can already see that in a very big way, one of the aims of AJS is to promote reconciliation. And with it comes a lot of peace at mind, peace at heart of these parties. Okay? And that is under what now the current Chief Justice, the Chief Justice now is talking about social transformation of our societies and so on and so forth.
Wow, wow. Yeah. Absolutely amazing there. And definitely will have a major significance in terms of actually bringing the coexistence of the society. And maybe, Bwana Kibelekenya, the other thing that maybe somebody would want it to know, or even maybe to understand very well, maybe you have a situation where maybe someone would really want maybe to get to have this reconciliation, or maybe even, but the other party maybe is not willing. In a case where maybe one party is not willing, but the other party is willing to actually maybe come to these AJS, how would you do it?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Mola. That's why mostly we are using the word to encourage. And when you look at some of the challenges, the teething challenges of AJS, you realize that those people who have been taken court, maybe in one way or the other, are weak people, are the weaklings. Maybe there is a land matter. Somebody has accessed and got on document in your parcel of land. You are rightful land. Now what happens? You decide to go to court. And when you go to court, with how the court systems operate in this country, there are backlogs of cases. This guy who has intentionally encroached in your land will not want this case out of court. You as a poor man, because you have no money to hire an expensive advocate, you may not be able to have money to attend court cases every other moment. You can decide to go for AJS. But this particular person can decide to become adamant because that person is already aware justice will be delivered within time and justly to both parties.
Both parties.
And that is the challenge we are currently. And that is why when this person refuses completely, the judge or magistrate can review this particular case, look at the strength of it, and transfer this case to AJS. So that these people could be able to be served justice there. So that is now the only way that arrogant person who hangs on the court system can find its all way going to AJS.
Wow, yeah. Wow. Bwana Kioko, somebody maybe is watching, or somebody maybe they are there in the village, they are having this dispute and they are wondering, where do we go? Where do we start from? Should I reach this particular person? Do they go to the elders? How can they maybe access some of these alternative justice systems, working groups? What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, one of course is to tell that person to exhaust AJS mechanisms around them, because they are there. Even chiefs, this discussion, we call them third-party AJS mechanisms, the chiefs and the elders, the Nyumba Kumi, okay? Even in the media, we have, we also have an AJS system in a way, even though it's arbitration, where we have the Media Council of Kenya Complaints Commission, and so on and so. It's actually part of the AJS mechanisms that we are talking about. So exhaust them.
Yes.
All right. You have an issue. If you feel it can be handled better by having a discussion in the office of your pastor, kindly go there. If you think it's actually the elders who can do it well, go there, okay? And if finally this case is at the courts, right, you can still request, like we had said before, you can still request that it be heard through an AJS mechanism, and that will be done. And to just again emphasize that Nakuru is the first county to actually launch an AJS suite. So we are actually the first county to formally start implementing the AJS policy or the AJS framework, as you know, as envisioned in the Constitution under Article 159(2)(c). There are other counties that are actually picking from us, but Nakuru will always remain as the pioneers. The next county that is doing this is Uasin Gishu, and they were here. In Nakuru, it was launched on May 16th by the Chief Justice. Uasin Gishu actually came to benchmark with us. And we are looking forward to see this being replicated in several other counties. Yes.
Wow, thank you so much. And I think we want to bring it to a close at this particular point, but we want to appreciate our panel today in this particular discussion. That is Bwana Kioko Wakivandi, member AJS, Nakuru Working Group, and also a journalist. Yes. And also Bwana Kosiom Kibele Kenya, also a member of AJS Nakuru Working Group, and also the coordinator, National Land Commission. Thank you so much also for your contribution in today's discussion. We also want to appreciate you so much, our viewer, for being with us and also for joining us in this particular discussion on alternative justice systems. And now you know that there are other very, very impactful ways in which you can resolve disputes back there at home in the society, and which are actually very instrumental even in terms of promoting peace and coexistence in the society. On behalf of the entire crew that has made today's discussion a success, we want to wish you a blessed afternoon. My name is Mangi Chomola. Enjoy the rest of your week.